All right, good afternoon. Welcome to one of the last webinars I'm going to do for digital solutions, I think, at this point. An amazing federal government program, which I'll talk about at the end, if you don't know anything about it yet. I know a lot of you are already in the program. But we're going to create 6 months of articles in 1 hour. Now, obviously, I'm thinking more blog articles, so we are going to talk about blogging. As an extra to this, I would suggest checking out Susanna Birch's amazing webinar on blogging for SEO. So if you're thinking about doing blogs in the sense of making sure that you're getting attraction to your website and using it in that manner, which we'll talk about a little bit later, Susanna runs a great webinar on that. If it's not listed at the moment on the digital solutions page or Eventbrite page, I know that there would be a recording of it at this stage in the YouTube channel for Digital Solutions Business Station. So if you Google those in YouTube, search in YouTube, you'll find those also. So for today, it is going to be a similar webinar to what I've done before, but each time, obviously, this topic especially does evolve each time because changes in technology, changes in methodology, feedback I get, different things I try, and I think the reality is I think this kind of sits well with people. People really are keen on this topic. It's always popular because we're kind of looking for the shortcuts to things, right? We're kind of looking for a way to do this better, faster, cleaner, brighter, better results. And that's why you do this program, right? You come to these sessions is to figure out, okay, well, how do I do this faster, better, quicker, all the rest. So I'm gonna go through the method that I use or that I've traditionally used, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about AI writers today, just to make sure you understand the full context of this environment. So a little bit about me. There should be a photo there, but there's not, but that's fine. You can see me. My name is Rhonwyn Lerner. I don't know why there's no photo there. And actually, I should have changed that email too. So that email now is, I will say best to email me at info@businessintraining.com.au. So I might actually post that in the chat as well for everybody. So if you need to contact me after this, and you haven't contacted me before, this is the best email to get me on. So info@businessintraining.com.au. Feel free to copy that out of the chat. And if you're watching back the YouTube, I might even jump into YouTube and paste it in there in the comments section. Just because obviously when we learn stuff or when you watch back recordings or, you might not, I know that not everyone registered is here today. Quite often we'll be like, I wish I could have asked that question. So please feel free to come and ask afterwards, even if it's like a year ago, that we did this and you're watching it back, it's really fine. I'm not going anywhere. I'm moving forward, but that's different. So my background is behavioral science, marketing, working with startups, working with small business. That's been the bread and butter and the bulk of my work for many years. I'm probably getting more into management consulting these days, and I'm working with a lot bigger organizations to work out kind of how do they, bust through that ceiling of, growing organically and then suddenly realizing, oh, we don't really have a lot of processes or workplace health and safety. so I will say that by observation, the marketing topics are always the most popular topics that I see. I also do cybersecurity, and I do a bunch of other things that are super important in running a business. My colleague Kelby does a lot in finance, also super important. But marketing always holds our attention more. And it's really because obviously it's the thing that we go, well, marketing is kind of the oxygen, right? If I don't have marketing, then I don't have clients. And if I don't have clients, I don't need accounting because there's nothing to count, right? That's where we're at. So while we're going through this, I will say that if you're on the live webinar, I'm so glad you could join me today. You're going to notice that this isn't a standard Zoom meeting. There's a chat function and there's a Q&A function, which look kind of the same. If you're just going to, like this slide here where I'm saying, hey, if we were in a live market, like a live workshop event, I would get you guys to chat and talk network and say hi and swap details and see where you line up and share each other's experiences. Do that in the chat today. So as a courtesy and as a kind of a reward for being here today, I will read out your name, your business, your website, whatever you want to share today. I'll read it out, so it's on the YouTube recording as well for everyone to hear. So if you'd like to pop that in the chat. And the Q&A is a little bit different. So the Q&A is really where we're going through specific content and you have a specific content question. And then I encourage you to put that in the Q&A so we can answer that way. I can go tick, done. All right, so when we look at blogs, let's just get into the meat of it. So when we look at blogs and articles, what you put into a blog and article really is determined by where you're going to put it, right? So if, for example, you're going to use it for SEO, search engine optimization, we could do a whole session on that. And that's why I tell you about Susanna's great blogging for SEO session, because when you build a website, we kind of call that static content. So static content means it's not moving, right? It's just as it is. The trouble with static content is, although it's really useful to clients and people who visit your site, in order for people to find your site, Google and other search engines are really looking for fresh, new content, dynamic content, evolving, high quality videos, transcripts, all that kind of articles, all that kind of stuff. So an article by tradition is where someone does some research, gets together a bunch of facts and information and encapsulates it with some influence or themes or credibility or argument or whatever and presents it as a body of work, as an article. You have, more research-based articles that are peer-reviewed and they go into academic journals and things like that. That's a whole nother thing. And if you're interested in that, usually a lot of local library databases, local council libraries sometimes have access to article databases, which is really, I got really excited about when I learned that with some local councils. So you might want to check out your local as well if you really want to do some great research. And other than that, I think you should look at from there, you can look at more basic articles. So, for instance, most of us these days, we kind of go to Google or a search engine of our choice, being whatever, and we kind of go, hey, I'm looking for an answer to this question. So a lot of search engine optimization is grappled around the idea of people searching for the correct answer to a specific question. Okay. And that's how people find your site, because a lot of you will be doing this because you are an authority in something. You're very good at what you do, whether that's accounting or wellness coaching or lifestyle design or dietitian or podiatry or showing people how to use sound therapy. Like there's no limit to what kind of business you can run, but hopefully you run a business in something that excites you and you're very well versed in, and so you can comfortably talk about it. And all we're doing with our articles is we're comfortably talking about it in a written form to hopefully respond to the kinds of questions that we get. And then Google goes, or Bing or wherever, your search engine of your choice, says, hey, I can find an article on that for you. Wait a minute, let me search for 0.7 seconds, and here it is. And this seems to respond very directly. Now, obviously, if you do an article, say, on sound therapy for teenagers, for example, just as a random idea, your search engine is probably going to find multiple articles on that, strangely. Like there's probably lots of people who do something similar to what you do, write about similar topics and can present similar information. So how does it determine which one it's going to show the person searching? And this is where optimization comes in. So the optimization says, well, Lynn over here, she has, it says on her website that she has done this, this, and this, and she's got plenty of articles on this topic, and she definitely links to sources of authority. So, for instance, maybe the National Dietitian Guidelines, or research into sound therapy, or whatever you're writing about. And again, there's also other websites across the interweb that are pointing to Lynn's website to say that she might be a good, valuable source of information. So when we write our articles for search engine optimization, things like that, the way, people are always trying to trick Google. And we're going to talk about this a bit more in the AI section. But the idea of tricking Google is a little bit like, really? You're going to try that? But I'll tell you what, the trick I find with Google and other search engines is you got to look at it from a human perspective, not a data perspective. And that's where people, I find, kind of go wrong with trying to trick Google. You kind of go, well, if I put this many key terms and send this, and you got Yoast SEO and, all in one SEO and all these plugins for WordPress and things different saying you need to put this and this and this in, and that'll make Google love you. It's like, well, at the end of the day, I mean, Google and other search engines really just want to show the highest value content. And the way they judge value is it's a method I learned in uni, and I don't know if you've come across it. It's the idea of a piece of information being valid. So wherever you see that information, it kind of is said in the same way or expresses the same facts. It's current, so it's not too old, so maybe the last year or 2 years. So a lot of people do really well finding old articles from other people and going, well, there's nothing really since 5 years ago on this topic. I might do a version of that, and that goes really well. And also around the authority. So what authority do you have on this topic? So if you are a general practitioner doctor and you're suddenly talking about sound therapy, then Google might go, yeah, I don't really see the match up. So that's where keywords and things come in functionally. But I want to say that, content writing, article writing, it does come into different areas of your business in terms of marketing. So you might turn a series of articles into an ebook, and it becomes a lead magnet. So a lead magnet is where you would have, even if you don't know what this is, you'll know when I say it, which is you go to a website and a little pop-up comes up and goes, would you like a free ebook? It's free. It's amazing. It's 26 pages of how to do something you're dying to do. And all you have to do is give me your email address. That's a lead magnet. So as in the idea of it attracts a new lead to your business, and then you can keep email marketing them or doing some sort of promotional campaign from there. So you can use your writing in that way. You can also use your writing in terms of a referral campaign. So you might do a wonderful article and you might put in some product links, or you might send it to your network and get them to share the article, in which case it might help with referrals back to you. You can write them as media releases. So a media release or anything to do with like news article writing has a slightly different format. So generally when we write a standard article, we would start with kind of let me get this right. You would start with the general, broad view, and then you would start to detail down in the paragraphs following in your arguments. News writing is the opposite. It gives all the really specific details up front, and then it broadens out from there. So it's a little bit reversed. And then, of course, blogs, which we've been talking a lot about. You can turn your articles into podcasts. So a fellow I know, he writes his article for the week, then he literally reads it out and it becomes a podcast. And then he might video it. So then from this one amazing article you've done on how to use sound therapy for, Pomeranians, you've suddenly got a written blog for your website. You've got a video for your website and your YouTube channel or your TikTok or whatever. Plus you've got an audio recording plucked out for a podcast. I mean, and then you can take snippets of that and you can repurpose it into little statements or quotes or tiles or suggestions or things on social media. So that's how we do it in my cybersecurity firm. I've got a wonderful assistant who is currently learning ChatGPT, but for me, I'm like, don't like it. It's a little bit like the person who sits in the corner of the lecture theatre and doesn't know how to interact with other people. Like, that's ChatGPT to me. Like, there's no personality, and we try to ask it to have personality, and then it comes out with the weirdest sayings that you're just like, all right. So this is what an AI mimicking a human looks like. It's really weird. Is this what we sound like? That's kind of where my brain goes. So we'll talk about that in a minute. You can also use articles for sharing case studies and testimonials. There's amazing things you can do, and I show this slide quite a lot in a lot of my webinars, because you need to know that different things you do actually have different applications. Like, the one thing can be applied in many different ways. All right, so how are we going with that chat? A couple of entries on the chat. I'll let you guys still put in there where you're from, what you do, what business, and I'll share it. But let's move on for now. So when we're starting to write, obviously I mentioned a very firm point around you really should write about stuff that you're well versed in. Okay, so you write what you know. This used to be the saying you'd use for a novelist, you know, Hannah Green Gables and whatever. It's like, well, you should write what you know, because then you can write with the kind of context and detail and comprehension and emotion and everything that you have from that personal experience, right? So when we come into our small business context, we're really writing what we know in the sense of your expertise. So it still is about your experiences, and you may share your personal experience in doing your business, and that's still writing about what you know. But it's something to think about, that if you are using writing as a content marketing tool, it's super important to keep on topic, basically. So for Vatanium, my cybersecurity firm, like all the topics are, you know, we're going into training this year a lot more. So we're going into, you know, talking about kind of how we love our staff, but staff will absolutely destroy us in cybersecurity because we don't teach them what to do. And we kind of assume, oh, everybody knows how to identify a scam email, right? No, they don't. Like 80% of the population, I think, probably have no idea how to identify a scam email, to be honest. So if you know how to do that, that's great. But most people are like, oh, look, the tax office is giving me money back for no reason whatsoever. I should open that. But if we were to start talking about like we almost, because we were trying out all the AI writers, we were starting to think about writing a little bit on this topic, and I looked at it and I went, no, we can't, because even though we're getting to know a lot of these AI writers, you know, which speeds up the process, which I'll talk about later, like the reality is that it's not on topic for us. So unless I was to talk about security in AI writers, which is a potential topic, that might link the two. But if I was simply to start giving some articles around what are the best AI writers to use and, you know, what it's like, sure, it's topical and it might get some hits, but it's not going to help me the long term, because search engines and the general public are going to be a little bit confused. So one week I'm talking about AI writers and they're like, yeah, I like this. Let's learn some more. And then suddenly for the next 50 weeks, I go back to talking about phishing and password management and how to update stuff and what's patching and all this kind of stuff. So it's a bit like, oh, what did I sign up for? I don't know this, people. So stay on topic, write what you know, and make sure that you have an authority in that space. So I've worked with some people recently that put me in mind of sort of, you know, it's good to really compare your knowledge. And I don't mean comparing yourself to strangers on the internet and feeling really low about your point in your business. That's a no. Okay. As if you're generally new to business, you are going to find other people who do what you do eventually in even a similar way or the way you want to, or a different way that looks better, and they've got their branding sorted and they've been doing it for 5 years and they've got millions of clients and millions of followers, and you sort of go, oh my goodness, how can I compete with this? All right, so you don't want to go there, but you do want to understand, if you're going to start creating content, for example, what other content is out there and who's writing it and who's doing it, to get a bit of a feel for, okay, well, how do I make mine a little bit more specific to how I do what I do, and what are the really niche bits about what I do that I really want to talk about, and that sort of thing. So it's good to have a bit of a gauge of it. But once you've got an idea of that, which really should come from what you do as a business, right? So make sure it is on track. If you are writing articles for the joy of writing articles, I'd probably suggest putting it under a personal brand. So, for example, I work mostly with startups, but I have a huge passion for leadership and management, and producing inspiring leaders and women in leadership and things like that. You know, International Women's Day is a huge one for me that I love, and so that kind of I can put that under my business brand, but then it kind of almost looks off topic for my business. But if I put it under my personal brand, as in my personal name and any kind of personal profiles or channels, then, you know, absolutely great to do. All right, so before we go into this breakdown, I might just come into the chat and have a look at all the hellos we've got. So thanks for sharing that. All right, hi all, I am Donna Rose from brainbodymoves.com, helping people move better and better each day. It's neuroplasticity in action. Very good, very modern. Hi everyone, I'm Wendy Cook and I have an online business, The Grazier's Daughter, graziersdaughter.com.au. I create gourmet food hampers using the amazing products from Toowoomba and Darling Downs. Oh, thank you very much. I'll tell you where to send a sample later. Donna Rose is from the Gold Coast. Been doing it for 30 years. Yeah, you do amazing work, Donna Rose. Sarah C. So I'm from breatheyogaspace.com.au in the Sunshine Coast as a yoga therapist and teacher, working with a wide range of clients in therapeutic groups and one-on-one mental health well-being. Yeah, movement and mental health are so intertwined, aren't they? Well-being, recovering from injury, illness, and older grown-ups. So that's Sarah. Anyone else? Yes, Lynn, and of course Lynn do photography, beautiful landscape photography and other photography, and performance nutrition. Again, totally different spaces, right? So you got to kind of keep them a little bit, choose which one you want to talk about under Lynn, but otherwise you'd have your two brands. And focusing on working with athletes to train and compete at peak levels, and that's at Lynn Barbera Photography. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing that. All right, so when we move on to how to kind of do these articles, we've got another one in. Quick. Hi, Tony McInnes. Hi, I'm Tony from FX Business Technologies in Cairns. Hello again, Tony. Also run 2 NFP Circular Economy, not-for-profit circular economy business. Okay. Far North Queensland and Forum for Business Growth. My purpose is to connect people. Oh, I love that. It's probably not as mushy as it sounds. It's probably very, very practical and sensible and good for business. So well done, Tony. All right, so let's circle back. Thanks for that. And if there's any more pop up, I will read them later. So let's come through to my process. So this is a very simple process, and it comes really from my training background. So I am a trainer by trade, and it's really about how I break down a topic in most scenarios. So I'm just going to show you how this works. So the very, very first thing you need to do is, of course, understand what topic you're going to do. What is your business do, and what are the things you're going to talk about? So if I got you as a very first activity to write down exactly all the different things you do, I'm sure you could write down a fairly hefty list. And if you have trouble writing that list, a great starting point is kind of like the main questions people always throw at you, right? So for me, working with startups, I always get asked about grants, like how do I do grants? Can I do grants? What can I get grants for? That's an area of topic. Structuring is a big one. People are constantly kind of confronted by, okay, so I'm a sole trader, but I'm not, and I have a brand and I have a business name and there's an ABN, and does that mean I do GST, and how does that all fit together? Yeah, so I get asked that a lot. I get asked a lot, how do I get my first customers? So there was an online course I did years ago, which was from a workshop, and then I put it into a bit of an online thing, which isn't live at the moment. Don't go looking for it because it's getting put into a bigger thing. But it was like basically just a short series on how to get your first customers, because I found that people were getting so confused by marketing, because marketing was like, oh, you should do this and this and this and social media and blah, blah, blah. And even this blog writing is not going to get you customers tomorrow. I can tell you that. And the reason I did a whole series on how to get your first customers, to remind people that in order to get customers, you have to build trust. In order to build trust, you kind of have to get in front of people. And that is the scariest thing you can do when starting a business, but there's definitely ways to approach that are not so scary and get you results. So, that was an area that's always been on people's minds. These days, there's a lot of social media. So most people who come through digital solutions, for example, they'll be like, wow, there's a lot of webinars on social media and marketing. It's like, well, yeah, that's because everybody asks about it. Like, there is still this kind of enigma around social media and how to do it. So when I start to think about the conversations I'm having with clients and potential clients, and through business networking events, I do a lot of networking, which is great. I really suggest getting out there and meeting people. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And you start by going out and finding people this. So what I found was, it became quite clear the types of things people was on their mind and they wanted to know about. And also thinking about the types of things that people maybe are not brave enough to ask in person. So the questions that people ask me in a private session can actually be quite different to what they would ask me in a public forum, right? So it's thinking about the kinds of things that they're going to get on their computer late at night and be like, oh, how do I fix my tax because I think I broke it? Things like that. So that's how you're generating your themes. So for me, I'm saying my themes are like grants, structuring, first customer marketing, social media, right? These are all themes that I can divide within what I do as a business. If you were doing, photography, for example, you might be talking about different types of photography. If you did different types of photography, otherwise you'd probably be talking about like how to get the best value out of your photographer, how to approach designing a photography session, or how to what's the difference between basic, better, best kind of photographers. Like these are all probably things that people are like, oh, how do I do this? Is digital photography better than analog film photography? These are all kind of things that you can address. But by themes, it's really about different categories within your business. So what I do, and I'll come back to 2 and 3 in a second, but I use this very, very simple table to work with it. And you can see here that I'm really dividing my themes by month. So when I say 6 articles in an hour or 6 months of articles, I'm really talking about 1 article a month. And I think that's very, very doable. Once you're doing 1 article a month and you're getting that consistency, or you feel like you can do this process fairly regularly, like every couple of months you could go and write, 4 to 6 blogs, then, start doing fortnightly and then start doing weekly. I think one observable thing I've seen across the board is that if you double your online marketing activity, you will literally double your response. It's very, very one-to-one correlation. So, for example, if I started out with monthly blog and I'm getting a few likes and a few reads, if I start doing it fortnightly, I'm probably going to get the same amount, or it might start to double. And if I started doing it weekly, it might start to triple or quadruple, right? Same thing with posting on social media and all the rest. The question is, what do you actually have time for? That's really the question in a small business, especially if you are your business, which a lot of us are. It kind of becomes a ridiculous feat to be like, oh my goodness, like when do I have time for this? And I find it challenging too. And you'll find actually that even though my staple talent set is marketing, I actually don't do a lot of marketing for my own business because not to sound like a douchebag, but I get a fairly steady flow of clients, especially through referral and networking and things like that. So I actually don't do a lot. I occasionally go through times where I'm like, I'm going to get onto LinkedIn because I've got something to say. But I don't do it necessarily, for a really fine-tuned marketing strategy. But I know that when I do it as a planned out strategy, it absolutely gets results. So what I do with blogging, when it's worked really well, is I divide by theme. So if you're an accountant, for example, I've got an example there of BAS. BAS would be a theme. And then you would come up with something about BAS, right? So you wouldn't just go, what is BAS? There must be a million articles on that, including government sites. You don't want to compete with that. So it might be a question of, do I need to do BAS? Or it might be a question around, do I need to do a BAS return if I've made no money, or if I've made a loss even? It might be questions around that. So there is a great site. I'll take you and have a look. Let's have a look. Just bring up the right. Make sure I don't show anything interesting. So some of you may have seen this before. I think a couple of you even came on the last version of this webinar I did last time. So I'm going to bring up this website and then I'm going to share my screen again. Here we go. They've always got a funny little photo. Now it's been bought out by Neil Patel. I did not know that. Okay, so if you don't know who this face is, this is Neil Patel. He's like a pretty decent digital marketer, and he's got like very decent, and he does search engine marketing programs, things like that. Anyway, so this is, I'm going to go past his face now. This is Answer the Public. And this website's been around for a long time. Not like over a decade, I don't think, but, a decent number of years. And what you do is you say you've got a topic. Does anybody want to volunteer a topic? And I'll put it in. Like what do you tend to get asked about, or a theme you're thinking about? And I'm happy to pop that in and have a try. I'll give it another 10 seconds, and if there's nothing, I'll put in. Try that. Oh, we got one in the chat. Thinking of a Bollywood event here in Cairns, Bollywood charity ball. All right, well let's see. I think Bollywood. I feel like if I put in Bollywood, it's going to give me core questions about the actual Bollywood industry. So maybe if I put in charity events in Australia, let's see what that comes up with. Let's see. Actually, I don't. Now I've done this, I don't know if that was saying what you do for your business, or you were giving me an example, but we're going with it anyway. So what it's doing is it's processing. I think you get about it says for free you can do 3 free searches a day. It feels very Dr. Seuss to say that. 3 free searches per day, and what comes back looks like a bit of a mess when you first look at it, and you're like, what am I looking at? But what it's actually showing you is, what do people search online regarding this topic? Okay, so 58 questions get posed regularly through this topic. So we've got what is a charity event? Can charity events take place? How much does it cost to run a charity event? So that might be a great blog article. The purpose of a charity event. What charity events are coming up? So you could do a thing. Sometimes at the beginning of the year, I might put out a calendar for awards or grants, or like business events, things like that. Quite often I look at a business event calendar around, in Queensland, we have Small Business Month in May, but I know it's different around different states and territories. I think Northern Territory, maybe October, I can't remember. How to host, what does it cost? There's a few. Can you survive a charity event? That'd be a funny blog topic. How much does it cost? A lot of how much does it cost? How do charity events work? That's probably a decent one. So if people attend a charity event or want to sponsor a charity event, they might be like, well, how does this work exactly? So if you're spending $100,000 to put on a charity event, how much money does the charity actually get? It's a good question. How to organize it, the kind of purpose, why are they important, are they tax deductible? That's another good one. Why are they good? Okay, so you get the idea, right? And if I come down, so with prepositions, okay, so this is probably more long strings searches. Find my words today. So for example, charity event in a remote island, charity event with a finish line crossword. I haven't seen that before. Malaysia, Malay, Bulgaria, Singapore, for orphans, near me, near Bath, the weekend. How do they work again? New South Wales, right? So you're getting the kind of idea. And then you come down. So things that people kind of use as a comparison. I know this seems very vague, but honestly, if you take away even just some nice little, what do you call it, like prompts for what sort of things to get some idea of blog articles. So just to clarify, charity event would be the theme. So you might do let's see, charity events. So charity events are probably around May, probably the bulk of the year. So probably awards tend to be around that August. If they're not in February, then they tend to be around that August, October is awards nights. And then, or even September, November, it's quite mid to late year. And then charity events tend to be around the kind of more middle of the year, where they've had enough time as a run up, but they've got enough time to get the money and do something with it. So June, July, that sort of thing. So you might do, if you were an event planner, or if you had a charity event coming up, you might do a series in the month, maybe 2 months before your event, to be like, why are charity events so important? How does a charity actually make money from a charity ball? You know, is it kind of a how do you say it, like an exorbitance, an indulgence to go to a charity fundraiser for the homeless if you're, everything in the event is extravagant. A lot of people have trouble with that. If you're doing a ball, it has to, your charity event basically has to match up, right? So, like CEO sleep out for the homeless is a very well matched up one, things like that. So if you did like a series of blogs, one per week, and then in the following month, you're like, tickets available for the charity event. And then you just keep the theme going of, probably that's when you'd start to talk about the actual organization that's raising money. And you might do, in that second month, you might do some case studies for your blog around people that have been helped by that charity and what kind of outcomes people see. And so people understand that if they come to this charity event and they do the auction and they do the fundraiser and they buy the, exorbitant ticket and all that, like, what does the money actually go towards? Kind of, like, everything should be a chain of influence in writing, in my opinion, especially marketing. Okay, and then you've got some other keywords around charity events that people search for. So all this collection of information is based on what people search online, right? It's not just them randomly making it up. It says search volume and pay and cost per click. So cost per click is a new one. I don't think they had that before, but it's basically saying charity event example, search volume 20, and people clicked for about $2.84 with search engine marketing. I'm not going to go into CPCs and things like that today. It's a different topic, so forgive me if we don't go into that too much. I'm going to go back to some slides and share those. So now we've got some working titles for what we potentially want to write about and thinking about under that theme. So I might actually come up with a theme, like January might be my BAS theme if I was an accountant or a small business manager or a consultant or something in money business space. I might come up with 4, 5, 6, 8 working titles of different topics I could do under that theme, right? And then we're going to come back to, okay, let's break down the title. So now that we have the working titles, so number 1 is themes, 6 months themes, right? This is kind of like doing the family dinner. Chicken, beef, eggs, pasta. that's the weekly that's the weekly diet. That's your themes. And then breaking it down is like, well, what am I going to do with chicken? Well, on Monday night with chicken, I'm going to do, apricot chicken. I don't know if anybody ever makes apricot chicken anymore. I think that's more of a 1980s, 1970s thing. If you do it, congrats. It's a wonderful dish. So getting back into working titles, really consider what is the most asked questions in this space. I want you to consider that you may rotate these themes. So when you think of 6 months of themes, right, you may actually come back and start the same set of 6 months of themes in the second half of the year, basically. So from January through to June, you might choose 6 themes that relate to your business. And then in the second half of the year, you basically rotate the same themes, but you would just choose one of the other Hey guys, I apologize for the interruption. I can only guess that my internet cut out, and so I've switched over to hotspot. Sorry about that. We'll call that intermission, shall we? All right. So what I was saying was that So when I look at what themes I'm going to do, I actually look at like what's lining up. So for instance, if I'm going to do, like I was saying, if I'm going to do some sort of workshop on staff fishing skills or something like that, then all my articles leading up to that would be about that theme, like the month before, especially when tickets are on sale or something like that. If I was to do a launch of my W Profits online course, then I would be leading up with, how to get more out of your social media, how to get more conversions from sales, how to, what are the 7 elements that drive profit and increase your profit and things like that, so that I'm quite happy to share as much content as I can through content marketing, knowing that the actual processes that I use and the templates that I use and the specific techniques that I use are in the course. So if I shared with someone, and this is, I guess this is something to be aware of, feel free to share or overshare a little bit with your content marketing, because what you're really showing people is how good you are at what you do. Yeah. So this process is exactly what I use for blog creation, except for when I'm feeling very, I don't know, poetic or silly. 4 a.m. wake up, I've got this great idea, I'm going to write a blog. That happens. But if I'm very pragmatic about it, very kind of, this is what I'm going to do, this lines up, everything, that kind of helps my marketing more than I've got a philosophy on something and let's write it on a whim. Now, to get the bulk of your article, you need to chunk it up into sub-questions. So you would have already seen this when I showed this before. And this is from the previous example. So do I need to do a BAS? Well, am I registered for GST? What if I had no income? What happens if I don't complete it? These are all kind of lead-on questions, or what I'd call a sub-question. Now, you note I'm not saying subtitles or subheadings or anything that's statement or prose related. I'm saying questions. Very, very important distinction. They are questions. Your title is a question, your subheadings are questions. This is for 2 main reasons. The first reason is, I will tell you right now, it is like 1,000 times easier to write your article content if you're responding to a question, right? So if someone said to me, can you talk for 2 minutes on this topic? I'd be like, well, where do I start? Whereas if someone says, hey, how do I do this? I'd be like, oh, well, you just right? We're kind of conditioned to respond in that way. So you'll find that information will flow from your brain far more easily if you pose questions and then answer them to yourself. The other thing is, the second reason is that this is kind of how search engines work too. So if you are using this as blog writing for your website or social media or any other newsletter, digital content, generally people find it through asking questions. So the better your headings relate as a question, and then you provide the answer to respond to that question, it's actually much easier for your content to be found. Okay. Now, the other thing you need at the end of your article is some sort of call to action, which a lot of people forget. Yes, it's an article. Yes, it's there to inform and educate and influence and whatever the purpose is. But bloody ask them to do something, right? You are here to run a business. So if it was all about BAS, then it'd be like, hey, if you're really not sure, this is how you book 15 minutes with me to talk about BAS and answer your specific personal questions, right? If it was on grant writing, then I might be like, hey, here's a website you can go to, or here's a recording of a past webinar I did, or here's an ebook that I have, or here's a diagnostic that I have, or whatever it is that I've got, to kind of get them taking an action towards the next step. And keep in mind that if someone's discovering you for the first time through an article, they're not going to go straight to, oh, yes, I'd like to book that $600 service. Like, it's too much of a gap if they don't know anything about you. So whenever we're leading towards an action that is some sort of conversion into a sale, you have to make sure that you've built up the trust there in order for them to do that. Question, how do I highlight a keyword or keywords that will open up into a topic for readers? Okay, so if you're talking about keywords for SEO and things like that, generally speaking, when you write your article, you would just make sure that you have some focus on keywords. So there's not really a way to highlight them. The little crawlers that look at all your content will find them anyway. And what they're really looking for is, sadly, they will be looking for repetition, but also in the sense that you are focusing your answers around that keyword or topic as well. If you wanted to have a keyword as a category, so with a blog, you can often select what category does this come under. So on my original WordPress site, I used to have categories for like startups and finance and just the mental health or something like that, like around the whole imposter syndrome and things like that, which I'd have to talk a lot about. And that would be a category. So any kind of article I did that touched on those topics, I would either put it in that category or I put a tag on it. So a tag is where you put like now they're kind of hashtags you can put in there, but otherwise in a WordPress situation you would say, do you want to tag this for anything, so that when people do search it, it'll find it via the tag as well. But yeah, so what you can do in WordPress, for example, so I'm saying WordPress because a lot of people use WordPress, but you can actually select a category topic to be a page in your website. I couldn't show it to you this minute because I don't have an active WordPress site at the moment doing blogs. I'm using Systemi at the moment if anyone's interested. So that would mean that, I haven't going for time, that would mean that say if someone wanted to look at something for startup as a startup topic, the WordPress would actually produce a page that drew in all the blog articles listed that had that category, that was included in that category. Does that answer your question, Lynn? I hope. Please feel free to type it again or put another question in to get more out of that. So coming back to chunking it up into sub-questions. So as you see, theme, working title, which is the main question people want to ask, and then the little sub-questions that go with that. Okay, great. So from there, once we've got, say we've got this table completely filled out, right? And you could if you're onto it and you use this lovingly as a lovely breakdown, you could basically fill this in by the time I finished like talking to you in the next 10 minutes. Like this is not actually that hard to do if you kind of have been having a lot of conversations with clients and customers. Other ways to get inspiration is answer the public. Other ways to get inspiration is literally go to Google and let's see, I'll just bring up. Just going to bring up Google. Google Forms, no, just Google. Just Google. Just Google. I think it'll be the first thing. All right. Let me just share my screen. It's going to crash again. All right. So this is just a normal Google search page. Now, I'm not going to lie. I do say Google, and Google has become kind of a verb, right? Because we Google stuff. That's it. That's where we're at in the world. We Google stuff. I don't want to claim favoritism, but if I'm honest, when I search things in other search engines, I don't get as many results or good results. So I do prefer Google. If you use Google Chrome, as this one is particularly right now, obviously it's optimized to help you with things, and you can get these wonderful Google extensions like Tab Copy and Phantom Buster, and all sorts of it. And there's a ChatGTP extension. I don't have it here. It's on another computer. So it searches the web, not just the old stuff. And we have to talk about that too. So anyway, so if I put in BAS, right, Google is really helpful in that it predicts what I might want to search, and it does it based on what everybody else searches. So literally just coming in here and putting in your keyword and seeing what stuff it predicts. Bas Rutten, the Dutch American actor, not so much, but BAS lodgement, BAS statement, BAS due dates, BAS agent portal, ASX, these are all things that are interesting. If I put in photography, courses, jobs, cameras, backdrops, Brisbane, Lightbox, courses online, studios, right? These are the kinds of things people are searching. Now, if I just went to photography Brisbane, for example, so that's where I am. You're going to come down here and you're going to have maps, no problem, but you also have this section called People Also Ask. This is a section you need to pay attention to because these are the questions that people commonly ask. So how much should you pay for photography? Is hiring a photographer worth it? What is a good hourly rate for a beginner photographer? Why are photographers so expensive? Why are you so, no, I'm just kidding. Worth every penny. So these are literally blog article titles you could use, right? Or you could package them all under the costs of photography, and you could say, how much is it worth it? What do they do, right? You could do that in one article. So this is another way to get inspiration if you're really not sure what those themes and questions should be, okay? Just as a tip. Where is my slides? Here we go. So from that, speed typing. Oh, I've got another slide in there. All right, so I'm going to show you speed typing. No, it used to be like, how fast can you type? My daughter's like, I wish I could type like you. And I'm like, I'll tell you a secret. I don't really know how to type. It's come from pure necessity. I have to look at the keyboard. There is some speed to it, but there's also some inaccuracy. So speed typing doesn't work for me. What I used to do, and what I still do for original content is you can do this on a laptop. So if you go Windows and G on a Windows laptop, I think it is, if you even just Google Windows shortcuts, you'll find a wonderful list of all the keyboard combinations that to let you know what your computer can do that you didn't even know it could do, not just like cut and paste and that. There's like 140 or something that are preset, and one of them is voice recording. So your laptop, as long as it has a microphone, which a lot of them do, you can actually do voice to text directly into Word and other programs. Before I figured that out, phones, so I just have a normal Samsung, not even the best Samsung. I used to have a Huawei and Oppo. I've gone through a few different brands. They all do speech to text. So what you do is you can actually get the app for Word if you want. I'll tell you a little secret, a little work around. I wrote the draft for my first book in Notepad on my phone over the course of a few days. Obviously, like I said, I used that breakdown method. So I broke down the chapters as themes. Then I broke down the main things people want to know about. Then I broke down the top 3 points under all those things. And that's how I got my structure for my book. Same process. And then literally sometimes I would script it while I was driving. So put on my Bluetooth, always safety first, and I'd tap it to Notepad, microphone, like this is the little sub topic I'm answering right now. Voice out my paragraph. You have to work with a speech to text program of any kind in any device. It will get to learn your voice a lot better as you go. So the first couple of times you use it, be like, this is a little bit crap. But there's also voice directions. So to say new paragraph, period or full stop, question mark, exclamations, indent. You can do that stuff through voice command as well when you're doing text to type. So that is always my fallback when I just want to script out my own article. And as you probably guess, talking is faster than writing. And the reason I find that my flow of thoughts on text, speech to text, is a million times better because my brain is not competing for processing time in me trying to type my motor skills at the same time as me trying to generate creative ideas, right? Totally left brain, frontal backle thinking, right? It's lighting up a lot of different areas of my brain. And they can be, with these little fragile minds that we have, they can compete for processing speed. So I find speech to text is a great way to get out your article and your thoughts and your paragraphs a lot faster. So beyond that, we're looking at AI writers. Let's jump in. We've got a few minutes left. I have used Write Sonic. I've used ChatGTP. I've used Grammarly. I've used Jasper. What else have I used? Copy AI, Writer, I think I used a little bit of. Most of these do exactly the same thing pretty much. So this is a list I grabbed off a blog article that was like top AI writers. I'm like, yep, here's a list, go with that. So I don't know all of these, but I tell you right now that most of these are based on exactly the same AI tech, machine learning. And it goes to the point where it says, here's a form to fill out. This is the kind of topic I want it to write about. And it will basically search the web and regurgitate it into a human written format, okay? Now, when I say that out loud, if you're already connecting the dots, you'll understand that Google hates that. So if we've already talked about Google and other search engines being primed to find this original, valid, current, recent, beautiful, high quality content, and suddenly we have this epidemic of regurgitated crap, that does not go well for Google, right? So who is going to go in there and search Google for an article that basically is a rehash of other articles that are already there? And not only that, but they tend to write very simply. So they are almost a little bit, I would call them vanilla. So we have been trialing, like a lot of people, ChatGTP is the new one. ChatGTP takes it just a little step further, that you can actually almost have a conversation with it and say, hey, yep, can you just rewrite that? So can you write a paragraph for me on the series of events for the First World War that led to the commencement of the war, right? And it might go, oh yeah, this happened, this happened, this happened, and blah, blah, blah. It's very academic written, very vanilla. And like when I say vanilla, I'm really saying no flavor and personality. That's really what I'm saying. And then I might go, great, can you now put in some facts and dates around the most serious events through the war? And then it'll go and tweak that. And then it might be like, okay, can you now go through and put in can you write a paragraph on the reason why the Second World War started or whatever? So it just does a search, writes some pose, answers your questions, and that's kind of how ChatGPT works. You can use it for all sorts of things, not just articles. You can use it for writing processes. I've seen people say that they're writing it for using it for writing children's books. I don't know about that. I certainly am not seeing an element of creativity. There's no creativity, authenticity, originality in things like ChatGPT. So if you want my honest, genuine opinion, being a writer and a trainer and someone who's in this space for many years, and someone who observes patterns, I would say if you want to use an AI writer, I think it's a brilliant way to get you started on a topic. So if I feel like your writing is the opposite of everything you love to do, and this gives you like a starting point of basically like a 2,000 word article and you're good to go, I'd say that's great. But I'd say that if that's all you did and you posted on your website, what you're going to see is you're going to see engagement for about 2-3 days, and then it's just going to flatline. When Google goes dun, 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 all the indicators here are an AI written article. We are basically blanking this. Okay, you're going to see that all over the place. So I think a lot of people are priming 2023 to be the year of AI generated content, but I actually think it's the opposite. I think there's going to be such a prolific outburst of AI content that actually it's going to go the opposite way, and it's going to be all the original thought and the original stuff that's really going to cut through, because humans will also start to recognize this really vanilla stuff and be like, this is boring, I don't want to read this. We did an example before on insurance, like cyber insurance, and I couldn't even get through the first paragraph before going like, oh my goodness, what is this about again? So boring. So I was like, right, scrap that, new intro, here's a human intro, and so I'd say, like, take your AI written articles as your base if you want to speed things along, because you literally doing it this way, you really could, you can write 6 articles in an hour doing speech to text in the format, following your format and just writing from your brain. You will absolutely knock out 6 articles, like one every 10 minutes. It's really easy to do. You can absolutely talk through, given your prompts, you can talk through 10 minutes of a topic. Easy, no problem. Then you just clean up the editing and post it. Fine. You can absolutely write 6 articles in an hour using AI writers, but it will take you will have to put in some time to get to know your AI program, because it's not going to spit out a perfect article the first time you use it, not to one you're probably satisfied with. So I'd say that it probably takes you about the same time to spit out an article that you're happy with by going back and saying, no, make it more like this or more like that, or add this in or take that out or whatever. But then I think you're going to find, to make sure that it's quality content, you're going to spend probably the same amount of time again, like another 10 minutes, rereading it and putting in your personality, putting in your facts, putting in your experiences. So I think if I had to call it, I'd say speech to text will take a bit of editing to make sure that it picked up the right words you wanted to use, and then putting in all the paragraph stuff if you didn't direct it. So it will take some editing, but I think also it'll take more thought editing if you use your AI writer as your base. So tomatoes, what's quicker? I think they're probably going to end up time-wise being about the same. So if you can speak really clearly and your speech to text works really well, I'd say go with speech to text, to be honest. If you find that writing and English, or whatever language you're doing it in, if you find that it's a bit challenging for you, then I would use an AI writer as your base. Okay, so feel free to grab any of those. ChatGPT is the most popular one right now. GPT-3 by OpenAI, they're both by OpenAI, so I haven't checked out GPT-3 yet. There's also a version from Microsoft that's just come out, which they've attached to Bing. So it's going to be a bit of a battle of the AIs, but we'll see how we go. So once you have your article, how are we going for time? Probably going a little over time, apologize. Once you have your article, where do you post? Well, like I said, in the marketing, it depends on what you want to get out of it, but just as a straight article on, hey, do I need to get BAS, and you break it down, and that's what you do. You can obviously put it on your blog. I'd really recommend you put it on your own website, all your articles. So and this is something I'm in the process of having to go back and do too with a brand new website, which is like, okay, bring in all the resources that I love to link, and bring in all my articles, and bring in all my, like the recordings, and, post them all on your website, because your website is your shop front. Your digital shop front, and you definitely want to be showcasing all your great content there, even if it is throughout the web on social media and newsletters and Medium or Reddit or Dynamic Business or BMag, or wherever you've got it, right? So BMag is a Queensland one. Dynamic Business is a business magazine. It's been going for decades. Even LinkedIn, quite fond of LinkedIn. Yeah, not a problem, Wendy. So wherever you do, I think for us, we post the blog on the website. Then I might post mine again on LinkedIn articles, and then I will do social media posts that trigger people to go and be interested in that topic, and then link to the article to them to go read it. So I really encourage you that now that we've gone through the process of themes, topics, break it down into questions, either grab your phone or your laptop, do speech to text, or grab an AI writer and start trying it out. If you don't go do this right now, that's fine. But if you're not going to do it right now and try it out, go and schedule some time, at least an hour in your calendar, to go and do this sometime in the next 10 days. Okay. Otherwise, you will not come and do it. Okay. And you'll be back exactly where you started, which is, I really wish I could write more articles, but they seem to take too long. Right? So if you got to get in the practice of what works for you. Try both if you like, whatever you want to do, and just heed my little caution around AI generated content. If you're going to use AI generated content, go for it, but please go back through and put in your own facts and experience and personality. Okay. All right, guys, that's it from me today. If you don't know what Digital Solutions is, it's a $44 program. I don't know, all these images disappeared. It's a $44 program that allows you to get up to 3 hours of one-to-one advisory, and then you can lean on that advisory to say, hey, maybe you should learn a bit more about SEO and things like that. I have to be very, very clear that Digital Solutions in its current format is going to finish at the end of March. So literally from this recording, probably about 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. So if you still haven't joined the program, at this point, I'd almost be wondering if you'd be better off to wait, because the program will continue in a different format. So you might want to wait, and it might end up just paying a little bit per session. Otherwise, you would jump in now with 6 weeks to go and get in those 3 sessions and all the workshops for $44 neat complete fee. Okay. If you want to chat to me about that, feel free. Again, my email is info@businessintraining.com.au. Or you can reach out through Business Station, support@businessstation.com.au, and that'll come to me too. Thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really hope that helps you get a move on those blog articles, as we all need to. And without, with any of this sort of stuff, especially content writing, online course creating, all this kind of stuff, it's the payoff is in the future. so you have to remind yourself to set some time aside now to start building it. Just like social media, you have to start building it. All these things, you have to get into the habit and get into the consistency, so that then it does become this wonderful thing that has many, many returns for your business. Okay. All right, guys, that's it from me. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. I think we've got next month, we're doing no film videos. So if you want to do videos, but you don't want to be in front of the camera, that's the one you want. Bye, guys.